Hi there, and welcome to my 10.1.7 Fury Warrior Guide. Blood for the Blood God, skulls for the Skull Throne. Let's get into it. So the stats you want to look for on a Fury Warrior is actually quite simple. It's haste, mastery, crit, versatility. If you have the Aberrant tier set, critical strike does gain more value simply because of the Bloodthirst crit generating additional rage. But yeah, haste and mastery is your main priority. Mastery is just overall you're just doing more damage. All talents will as always be linked in the description below, so you can easily copy paste them into your own game. So we start off with Berserker stance, increasing the damage of our auto attacks. It's better than being in defensive stance where you're just reducing all your damage dealt by 10%. However, it can also be used as a defensive to reduce damage you take for 15%. I suggest having both of these keybound so you can easily swap stances. DPS notes that you're going to take from the class tree War Machine. Your auto attacks generate more rage. Furious Blows, just 5% more attack speed. Sidearm, your auto attacks have a chance to throw weapons at your target and free additional targets for a small amount of damage. Overwhelming Rage, gaining more rage. Frothing Berserker, Rampage has a 20% chance to immediately refund 20% of the rage spent. Honed Reflexes, reducing the cooldown of Raging Blow and our interrupt by 1 second. We then get Armor to the Teeth, gaining 10% of our armor as strength. We get our big cooldown Avatar, which increases our damage dealt by 20%. Then we pick up Berserker's Torment, making it so whenever we use Avatar or Recklessness, we get the other one at reduced effectiveness. We also pick up Wild Strikes, simply getting 2% additional haste, and our auto attack crit strikes increase our attack speed by 20%. Dual Wield Specialization, just a flat 5% more damage. We also pick up Cruel Strikes, gaining 2% increased crit chance and increasing the crit damage of our execute. Then we pick up Spear of Bastion, the old Kyrian ability from Shadowlands. We then improve this with Elysian Might, increasing the duration of Spear of Bastion, and as long as we're inside the area, we gain 25% increased crit damage. Defensively and utility-wise and mobility, Fury has a lot of good options. We start up with Impending Victory, making it so that we have an on-demand 30% heal Intervene. You can basically charge to any of your raid members or group members. You also pick up Rallying Cry, which is a great raid defensive. We also pick up Leeching Strikes, gaining us 5% passive leech. We pick up Spell Reflection, reducing magic damage we take for 5 seconds on a low cooldown. Gain 5% increased movement speed. Pick up Heroic Leap, which we then improve by reducing the cooldown and gaining a burst of movement speed after we've landed. We also pick up Double Time, gaining an additional charge and reducing the cooldown of charge by 3 seconds. We then pick up Pain and Gain, which is just a passive heal whenever we take damage every 10 seconds. And we pick up Reinforced Plates, increasing our armor by 20%. Lastly, we can pick up Bitter Immunity, which is an instant 20% health restore, and it also removes all diseases, poisons, and curses affecting you. Talking about the Spec talents, you basically have a few different options for single target and AoE. The main thing is that currently Ferocity, which is the current build I'm showing, is the most powerful build. However, you can play Annihilator, however you will be doing less damage. So it might be a slightly easier playstyle, but it will be less damage overall. For the Ferocity single target build, Bloodthirst is just a generator for rage, which we don't use very often. We would rather never press it because it doesn't feel great. We have Raging Blow, which will be our main rotational ability. We have a defensive in range regeneration, reducing our damage taken by 30%. Warpaint makes it so that we just take reduced damage while we are in rage. And then we have Rampage, which will be our main rage dump. Basically just a buttload of damage and a guaranteed way to enrage ourselves. Going down the left side, we have Improved Enraged, making so enrage increases our haste by 15% and our movement speed by 10%. Improved Bloodthirst, which we only take for pathing, and it's more often than not better than fresh meat. Then we pick up Focus and Chaos, making it so that while we're in rage, your auto attacks can no longer miss. Now, currently, if you have the 4-piece of the Aberrant tier set, you will be playing Cold Steel Hot Blood, making it so Bloodthirst crits generates more rage and inflict a wound, which is basically just a leech effect for 6 seconds. Continuing down the middle, we will pick up Frenzy, making it so Rampage increases our haste by 2% for 12 seconds, stacking 4 times, and this effect is reset if we target a new target with Rampage. We also pick up Hack and Slash, making it each Rampage strikes has a 25% chance to refund a charge of Raging Blow. We also pick up Slaughtering Strikes, making it so whenever we use Raging Blow, we gain a stacking 20% additional damage to our next Rampage, stacking 5 times. Then we pick up Fury's cooldown, which is Recklessness. We double our rage generation and gain 20% additional crit chance. We then pick up Swift Strikes, increasing our haste by 2%, making it so Raging Blow generates 2 additional rage, and Annihilator, if we play that build, generates an additional 2 rage. We then pick up Anger Management, making it so whenever we spend 20 rage, we reduce the remaining cooldown of Recklessness and Ravager by 1 second. We also pick up Unbridled Ferocity, making it so Rampage and Onslaught has a 20% chance to grant us Recklessness for 4 seconds. So let's go down the right side. We pick up Improved Execute, making it so Execute is now a generator and no longer costs rage. We pick up Improved Raging Blow, so we get a second charge of Raging Blow, and it has a 20% chance of resetting its own cooldown. We then pick up Cruelty, making it so while we're in rage, Raging Blow deals more damage. We then pick up Ashen Juggernaut, making our Executes increase the crit chance of Execute by 10%, stacking 5 times. We pick up Wrath and Fury, making it so Raging Blow deals increased damage, and while we're enraged, Raging Blow has a 30% chance to instantly reset its own cooldown. We then pick up Massacre to make Execute usable earlier in a fight, and we pick up Critical Thinking, making it so that we have 2% more crit chance, and Raging Blow's crit damage is increased by 10%. We'll pick up is Onslaught. We then pick up Tenderize, where Onslaught always enrages you, and if we have Slaughtering Strikes, we immediately get 3 stacks, and now our enrage effects last 2 seconds longer. Slaughtering Strikes is the effect that increases the Rampage damage by 20% per stack. We also pick up Ravager, and then we combine this with Hurricane so that we gain increased movement speed and increased strength, stacking up to 6 times. Now, I currently have a point in Sudden Death. However, this point is sort of a floater point. You will need to sim whether Sudden Death, Vicious Contempt, and Bloodborne is better, or use simply whatever you feel most comfortable. I prefer the additional rage income from Sudden Death. Now, luckily, if you were to do any type of Cleave in a single target setting, you can remove Sudden Death and Hack and Slash, Improved Whirlwind, and Meat Cleaver. Improved Whirlwind makes it so that Whirlwind causes our next 2 single target attacks to strike up to 4 additional targets for 55% damage. It also makes it so Whirlwind actually generates rage. Then we also can pick up Meat Cleaver, making it so Whirlwind deals more damage and now affects the next 4 single target attacks rather than 2. For Mythic Plus, with the Aberrus set bonus, there's a few things you will change. We'll no longer go into Spear of Bastion. We instead go into Thunderous Roar like we do with Arms, and increasing the bleed effect. We also pick up Stormbolt, Endurance Training to increase our stamina, and pick up Shockwave as an AoE stop. In the Spec tree, we are kind of focused on the same things. We simply drop the Juggernaut talents and the Massacre talents to pick up Improved Whirlwind, Meat Cleaver, and then Bloodborne. This will make it so that we are leaning away from Execute and more into our Whirlwinds, splitting our damage from Rampage and Raging Blow to all other targets. This particular version focuses entirely around anger management and using this effectively to gain more cooldowns throughout the dungeon, and you need to line them up very, very particular. However, feel free to experiment with like going into Spear of Bastion and Elysian Might or Execute if you feel like it and you need the single target damage, but this is like the general M+ build. So talking about the core of Fury Warrior, you want to be utilizing Recklessness, Avatar, Spear of Bastion, and Ravager as much as possible due to anger management. You want to get these cooldowns rolling so you just deal more damage. Then the idea is that you want to generate as much rage as possible with Onslaught and Raging Blow so that you can use Rampage as often as possible. You want to make sure that you use a Rampage or Onslaught if you are not enraged or if you're about to run out of enrage and need to like refresh it basically. It's kind of like a maintenance buff that you will be having up naturally while simply doing your base damage rotation, but it's something you need to be aware of. Now, because I'm currently running Sudden Deaths, sometimes I will have access to Execute on a proc base. Basically, you just want to execute whenever you have that proc, and then you want to blood first when you're out of Raging Blow charges and you have nothing else to do. However, you will prioritize using it when you have stacks of your force. That's quite important for the current playstyle of Fury. Now, if you're out of Raging Blow charges, you don't have Onslaught, you've used blood first, and you don't have enough rage for Rampage, then you Whirlwind. Whirlwind doesn't do a whole lot of damage. It's only 5k for me at the minute. However, it still does more single target than Slam, which costs rage and deals 4,600 damage, which is quite bad. So for the opener as Fury Warrior, it's basically a single target priority, except you start out with a charge, so you have more rage. That's the only difference. So for the brevity of this video, I will combine the opener into the single target rotation. But basically, you want to charge in, go Avatar, Recklessness, then Ravager, Elysian Might, Rampage, Onslaught, Rampage, Raging Blow, Rampage, Raging Blow, Rampage, Raging Blow, Rampage, Raging Blow, Rampage, and just get as many Raging Blows and Rampages, Onslaughts in as you can. You can see I have 8 stacks of my tier set right now. On the next Rampage, now I use Blood first to gain a lot of rage and getting the bleed on the target. Now I have the Execute proc, so I'll just use that, use another Rampage, going back into Raging Blow. Now I have Recklessness Ravager again, so I can just go back into that to deal more damage. And that's basically your entire rotation. You can see I have no issue keeping Raging Blow up, even though it's on a cooldown based system, and then utilizing Execute whenever I see the proc on my weak auras. You can see I'm also tracking Ashen Juggernaut, although that's not really as important. But it's something I like to make sure that in Execute I always keep it up in case I need to move away, so I make sure that I have an Execute going out. And then basically it's just all about trying not to like over cap on rage while you're utilizing your cooldowns. Now I'm holding my cooldowns because I can see that I'm close to having everything back again. And now we can just continuously go with Rampage, Onslaught, Rampage, Raging Blow, Rampage, Raging Blow, Rampage. And we just want to get as much damage, just get as much damage into our Avatar, Ravager, Recklessness, Spear of Bastion. And that's basically your single target rotation. Just try to slam your head against the keyboard as much as you can and do max damage. And as you can see on my damage breakdown, Rampage, Raging Blow is our main damage sources. Before I head into the M+ section, I just want to make sure that I completely explain this. You want to make sure that you fire off your Spear of Bastion while you are in Rage, Rampage or Onslaught, simply because then we get the Mastery bonus during Spear of Bastion. Now, for general purpose AoE damage, you just want to make sure that you keep Whirlwind up, making sure you have the meat cleaver stacks. Outside of this, it's basically just continuously trying to keep your enrage going and make sure that you always have at least a stack of Whirlwind before you do anything. That's your main priority in AoE, which I can't really show in the warrior class autohaul sadly, but it is what it is. In AoE, however, there is a very particular step-by-step you need to play in order to maximize your burst AoE. This is kind of what Fury is good at, so it's very important that you understand this. So for AoE burst, you want to charge in Whirlwind, then Onslaught, Avatar, Recklessness, Ravager, Thunderous Roar, Rampage, and then go into your base standard single target rotation. Just making sure that you keep up your Whirlwind buff, and that's your burst AoE rotation. It's something you will have to learn in order to effectively do damage as Fury in AoE, but it's not that far off from your opener burst, basically. You just want to make sure that you actually use your Whirlwind before unleashing your burst. And yeah, after you've done your burst opener, you just go back into your single target priorities, so you use your tier set bonus and just try to use as many single target damage abilities as you can. Now you would have more rage because you would be able to hit more things than I am at currently, but you get the idea. Last thing I would actually recommend is setting your loot specialization to be arms, because Fury can naturally pick up one-handed weapons due to single-minded Fury. Now Blizzard has stated themselves that single-minded Fury and Frenzied Flurry that you would take for the one-handed build is not meant to be the proper way to play Fury. If you set your loot specialization to be arms, you will only be dropping two-handed weapons, because arms can only use two-handed weapons. And yeah, I think that's all I had to say about Fury. It's fun, it's simple, it's go ham, you're gonna press a lot of buttons, you're gonna do a lot of stuff. Feels pretty good, honestly. Hopefully you'll subscribe, and see you on the next one. Bye!